lived in a bunch of neighborhoods in my life, and I feel like in each one of those neighborhoods, I always hoped to find myself, find my place, because I always felt different. I am biracial, and that subject might be, not as big a deal right now, but I'm 29, and throughout my life, I've encountered many people who can relate with me. But when I was growing up, I felt pretty alone. And so, just to give you a little bit of information about me, I am Dominican American, Jewish American, and my maternal grandmother was Hungarian American. And growing up, I didn't speak Spanish, so that was very complicated as well. Just a little information about me. And I feel like my personal experience being biracial was that a lot of people felt entitled to put the identity that I should have on me. And so there was a lot of, encouraging me to pick a side, but then discouraging me from identifying with one side more than the other. It was complicated. And I feel like throughout my entire life, I've been searching for like that identity that I could hold on to. And in high school, the question of, what are you? Like, what's your nationality? Like, you Latina? Like, I can't really figure it out, was constant. And I really didn't feel comfortable with that question. I would answer it, I'm Dominican, I'm half Dominican, half white, I'm Jewish Dominican. It just was always this long answer. And I always had wished that I could just have like a really quick answer. And I did feel Dominican. I really felt proud of being Dominican. Even when I was in high school and I didn't speak Spanish, but I didn't feel like I could connect with the Latino students in my school because they all spoke Spanish and I didn't, or Spanglish, and I also did not. And I just felt like it was like a club that I didn't have access to. So basically, towards the end of high school, I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to learn how to speak Spanish. I'm going to teach myself how to speak Spanish. Like, that's it. So I decided to practice Spanish, and before I went off to college, I took a month. I went to the Dominican Republic. I fell in love with the Dominican Republic, practiced some Spanish, and I said it would be a dream of mine to move back to the Dominican Republic to connect again. And so I came back, I went to college, I kept practicing my Spanish, I read, I would translate, I would read and translate music lyrics and listen to music in Spanish, and I could finally understand the lyrics to those Shakira songs. I was like a big fan of Shakira before I could speak Spanish, and I had no idea what she was saying. But she was cute, and now I understood what she was saying. And when I graduated from college, I was like, okay, well, I'm going. I'm gonna go to the Dominican Republic. This is happening. And so I did. And the first job that I got was as the second assistant director for a television series out there called Juanita's Gran Salon y Spa. And just to translate it for you, it was called Juanita's Grand Salon and Spa. You're welcome. You're welcome. And I could say my first neighborhood in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, was where I lived, but really it was where I worked, because we worked 14, 15-hour days, sometimes 6 days a week for 4 months. So the people that I worked with were my family, and my neighborhood was that set, that TV set in Studio Quita Sueño in Jaina, Dominican Republic. And I was speaking Spanish every single day. Everything I wrote was in Spanish, and I felt like I connected. I felt such a connection. It was incredible. I felt like I saw so many sides of myself in the Dominican Republic, and I felt like I found my identity in the Dominican Republic. I was Dominicana, and I loved it. And then towards the middle of maybe those 4 months, my boss, who was the first assistant director on the show, we got along really well. She had a really quirky sense of humor, and she decided to give me a cute little nickname, and that nickname sort of like did the rounds on set, and the nickname was La Gringa. La Gringa Loca. That was my nickname. And to me, it was like, for Latinos in the United States, gringo is a Caucasian, someone who's not Latino. But of course, I felt Latina. I felt very Dominican as well. I said, no, I'm not gringa. Yo no soy gringa. Yo soy dominicana. I'm Dominican. No, you're gringa. No, but my dad's Dominican. I grew up. There's Dominicans in the United States. Yeah, but you're like gringa dominicana. And I don't know if I can describe how it felt. It feels like imagine being in a crowded room and you're telling everybody that you're there and everybody's telling you that you're not. That basically is what that kind of felt like. And you'd think that it would break me because I was so determined to be accepted somewhere. And I was so determined to be accepted somewhere and realized that I was just as different there than I was everywhere else. And you'd think that it would break me, but it didn't. An amazing thing happened with this nickname, La Gringa. I decided to embrace it. I decided to embrace it because it made me realize, like, after all that, like, I'm really out here. Before I had to have my parents translate a conversation with one of my tias before, and now I'm creating shooting plans and editing scripts completely in Spanish, and living here in the Dominican Republic. I have my cedula, I have my passport. I, know how to make mango con cebolla, and I make a mi mango. And now you're calling me gringa? And I was like, you know what? I am trying way too hard to wait for somebody else to see me, to decide that they are going to see me the way I want to be seen. When this entire time, I was always everything that I am. And that's why I embraced the nickname, because you can throw all the nicknames at me, and I'm still here exactly the person that I am. And moving to the Dominican Republic was the most incredible experience, life-changing experience that I ever had. And living in the Dominican Republic did not make me feel proud of being Dominican, because I always felt proud of being Dominican. Even when I didn't speak Spanish, even when a conversation with my abuela was a kiss and a hug, and I didn't know Shakira lyrics, I was still proud to be Latina and proud to be Dominican. So moving to the Dominican Republic didn't teach me to be proud of being Dominican, because I already felt that. But it taught me to be proud of being me, everything that I am. The daughter of my father, the daughter of my mother, Dominicana, Dominican American, Jewish American, gringa, loca. Thank you.